So, if you're in the fashion e-com world, you've probably tried a quiz-based size finder to cut down on refunds, only to find that, well, nothing really changes. So today, let's break down the super simple math that shows exactly why these tools so often fail to make a real impact.
Does this question sound a little too familiar? Yeah, that's the one that pops up in so many meetings after you've implemented a new sizing tool. You did all the research, you got the quiz integrated, but your KPIs just haven't budged. It's an incredibly common and, let's be honest, super frustrating problem.
Okay, so let's solve this mystery once and for all. And look, it's not about some super complex algorithm or secret sauce. The answer is actually hiding in some very simple math. Math that, let's be real, most of these tool providers are kind of hoping you never bother to do.
Okay, let's dive into this because here's the first huge problem. See, even a really great, well-designed quiz is typically only used by about 25 to 30% of your shoppers. Right from the get-go, this thing isn't even touching the vast majority of your orders.
All right, let's actually walk through the numbers together, step by step, to see just how small the real-world impact is. Because this is where that big promise of a lower refund rate, yeah, it really starts to crumble.
Okay, so let's say your store is doing pretty well. You're processing, about 10,000 orders a month. It's a nice round number, makes the math super easy to follow. Okay, so how do people actually behave? Well, based on what we typically see, out of those 10,000 orders, maybe 3,000 shoppers will even bother to use the quiz. And the other 7,000? Nope, they buy without it. The tool has zero influence on them.
But wait, it gets even worse. Because of those 3,000 people who did use the quiz, a huge chunk of them, like 40%, will see the recommendation and then just buy a different size anyway. Maybe they want a looser fit, or they just trust their gut more.
So you see where this is going, right? If you do the math, 60% of that initial 30%, you're left with the quiz actually influencing a tiny 18% of your total sales. Wow, that number suddenly feels really, really small, doesn't it?
And here's the real kicker. Even if we're being super optimistic, and the quiz is perfect for that little group and cuts their returns by a lot, the impact on your entire business is, what, a measly 0.5% improvement? Is anyone in your finance department even going to notice that? No way.
So, as if the math wasn't bad enough on its own, the problem gets worse because of how the data is often presented. It can totally hide the fact that the tool just isn't doing its job.
Okay, here's an uncomfortable truth for you. A lot of providers will just lump everyone who saw a recommendation into one big bucket. This is a sneaky way to hide how many people just flat out ignored it, and it makes the tool look way better than it actually is.
Just look at this comparison here. On one side, you've got this misleading metric that just bundles everyone together. But what you really need to see is the split, who followed the advice and who didn't. That's the only way you can know what's truly going on. And all of this brings us to probably the single most important point of this whole thing. The real problem here isn't about how accurate the quiz is. It's about its tiny, tiny reach. So what do we mean by reach? Well, reach is simply the percentage of your total sales that are actually meaningfully influenced by the tool. That's the number that matters. That's the KPI that will actually move the needle for your business. Think of it this way. Even if you had the world's most amazing medicine, putting one single drop of it into an Olympic-sized swimming pool, it's not going to do a thing, right? The tool's positive effect is just too diluted by all those other sales to make any real difference. Okay, so if the simple quiz isn't the answer, then what is? The real solution means you have to tackle that core problem, the reach problem, head on. You need a much smarter approach. A much better system uses what we call a two-pillar solution. First, for your returning customers, use a zero-input tool. It looks at their past purchases to automatically give them a size. No quiz, no fuss. And then, for your new shoppers, you use a smarter quiz engine, one that actually learns from your real sales and returns data. And wow, the difference is huge. Just look at this chart. A quiz-only tool, you're lucky if you hit 20% of your sales. But with a two-pillar system, you can influence anywhere from 50 to, get this, 80% of all your orders. Now that is the kind of volume that can actually, finally, lower your overall refund rate.
So what does this all mean for you? Well, before you go and renew that contract with your current sizing tool, you need to arm yourself with the right questions to find out what's really going on.
First things first, you have to ask them this point blank. Don't let them dance around it with vanity metrics. Ask them,
What percentage of our total sales is your tool influencing? That's the reach question.
And the second question is all about transparency. You need to ask them, of those people, how many actually ordered the size you recommended? And hey, if they can't or won't give you that number, well, I think you've got your answer right there.
So I'll just leave you with this one last thought. Go take a really hard look at your data and your tools. Is your current sizing tool actually fixing the underlying problem? Or, with its limited reach and fuzzy reporting, is it really just hiding it?